let me first introduce the honorable participants to the audience, which are watching us on the Facebook. Uh, Mr. Umair Farouk, he's not a very unknown person in Pakistan. He's a political analyst, intellectual, and he is, you know, have a very deep understanding of contemporary politics and as well as geopolitical events, and his analysis are followed by the people who are really interested in politics. And
Thank you.
he's now joining us from London.
Thank you.
He attended a prestigious institution in Europe, while and he has some another introduction as well, that his father was a revolutionary here of our city in the gone days. The
That
other
would be true.
participant is Dr. Tamanna from Delhi. She's a political scientist. She is working on her new book. She did her PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and she can speak both Hindi and English. So we can switch from Urdu to Hindi to English.
Sure.
So the wave of
Thank you.
nationalism and populism in the recent years uh, has totally changed the geopolitics of our times. We have seen the Trump era in United States of America, Modi wave in India, the largest democracy on this globe, and also in the Europe, we have seen the rise of the nationalist parties throughout the world. And today we have to discuss this wave of nationalism and its significance for the future of capitalist democracy, which has been since the fall of communism in Soviet Union, has become the status quo of the world politics. Now, I would like to speak to Dr. Tamanna about the recent wave of nationalism in India that swept across the largest democracy on in this world. What do you think, and how do you look at the nationalism in India? Do you feel that it has some connections with the this global wave of nationalism, or do you believe that it has some kind of indigenous roots in India itself?
See, I guess nationalism, these issues are, it's what we are seeing in India right now is the value. There are certain values which are cherished, and nationalism, when Nehru came about, when in 47 Nehru became prime minister, that time we had nationalism of a different kinds. Now we have nationalism of a different kind. So it isn't that nationalism wasn't there that time and suddenly there has been a spurt of nationalism. Even like you can't say that these prime ministers, Indira Gandhi was less nationalist or something. So they all were equally nationalistic. But now we have a nationalism of a slight different kinds, and every country has a different value, which it
True.
gives to nationalism. So that particular aspect has to be seen, that in India, uh, for example, the rightist politics which we see in India is not a product, is a product also of Congress's failure to um, bring about real changes in the Indian society. For example, like blaming BJP blindly would result in, if we do not look at Congress during Congress time, the Sikh riots. So many intellectuals are ignoring that. After all, if you are a free thinker, you'll think accordingly in that particular line, that that this is a result of the fact that Congress was, for the vote bank, it was appeasing Muslims to a certain extent, and it alienated the Hindu population. And that is why RSS and BJP were working for quite some time building a base in the political, in the structure of India. And in the 19th, they came back in the big way. So I guess nationalism is something which was there from the beginning in India. And आप writers की बात कर रहे हैं तो
Yeah,
writers तो
you
ये
are
है
right,
कि
but that was the nationalism that said that the Hindus and the Muslims and the Sikhs and all other people who were living in the subcontinent were
no,
traditionally and historically.
that is what all the political parties are saying. Even in Tamil Nadu, for example, every political party, the new the if you've heard of Rajnikant, the person who is one of the biggest heroes
Yes,
India has
yes.
produced. So now he is looking for a spiritualistic politics. So there is a lot of change in the world itself. There is a lot of spiritualism, and those kind of things are also coming up. About you have porn, you have these kind of things, but equally, if you see in India, I don't know much about Pakistan, but the fact is that in India there is a splurge of spiritual groups which have come up. So that, and what Rajnikant, for example, is doing is he's asking for a spiritual politics, and which is actually aligning with BJP. So that is the
Yeah.
whole thing. So I guess we can't blame anybody for spiritual for nationalistic politics, but I guess Congress could have played better.
Yeah.
They
Can I
could have
add
done.
something? Yeah.
Ji.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. In my view, rise of this wave of nationalism in India, in its essence, is different. It's entirely different from the wave of nationalism all over the world. Because all over the world, you will see rise of state nationalism. In India, there was a state nationalism since independence, as Dr. Saib already said. But this new wave of nationalism is not like the rest of the world. This new nationalism is purely on the creed basis, Hindutva, on a specific creed. So that's why it's different. This wave is different from what's happening all over the world. What I think.
Yeah, but
Okay, right.
so
You,
yeah.
I have a question in my mind, and when I was taking my courses on African and post-colonial literature with one of my professors, and when the discussion moved towards the subcontinent, the politics of subcontinent, we had a point in discussion, and we could not find a satisfactory answer. I would like to pose a question here that whether the partition had the most important effect on the political imagination of the people of subcontinent of India. We have lived for thousands of years in the same region, in the same country, but all those years did not prove to be equivalent to the scars of partition. Uh, am I right to say that those the bones that were left in the partition are still, they are hovering around the political imagination and the political consciousness of the people of subcontinent?
I I think the politics right now of the youth, which below 30 people, like they who have not faced partition, they will look at the whole concept because they don't know really what happened. It's only people who are like 60 and above, or for 50, 60 and above, yeah, 65 and above, who really knew, and they bore the scars of partition. But the new youth which is coming up is not aware about this particular aspect so much. So I guess chances are much better now to forge good relationship within South Asia. We all are 767 countries which we are. We can have a better relation because the youth is not much affected by partition. So आप कितनी भी पट्टी पढ़ा लो बच्चों को कि आप मतलब like partition को याद कर लो, they don't know. They are concerned about their future. They are concerned about many things in life. So they are too busy to consider what is okay. They can be politicians who are inciting them, but I guess people are very smart now. I don't know how it is in Pakistan. I really don't know. In India, as far as I have taught students and everybody, they have a different perspective. They are just not concerned, and most of the students are like um, people who are like below 35 are not interested in this kind of thing. They want good relations between countries. They're not interested in fighting. Okay, there can be groups, you be maybe, you have every political party has a youth wing, for example. So they can try and convince them to be a part of it, be it Congress, BJP, any Akali Dal, for example. They have their youth wings, but I don't know what sir thinks about it.
Yeah, Dr. You're true. I, but what I think, sadly, Indian politics is still uh, failed to forget partition, and still the ghost of partition, they still are hovering on their politics, because that's why always in India elections are very Pakistan centric, while in Pakistan election is never India centric, or even we have
Sound.
forgotten that is never India centric. Elections in
All right.
Pakistan is never
Sometimes
India
it
centric.
sometimes
Nobody
it used to
discuss
be
India at all.
in, if we look at 2002 election, that were US, you can say that US played was more significant in
Anyway,
Pakistani
whatever,
politics.
whatever be, but India never it discussed in Pakistani politics, in
True, true,
elections. Yeah, nobody care about that. Even people
true,
don't care about their past I mean, their joint past with Bangladesh.
true.
They have totally forgotten. Even the politics have forgotten. But sadly enough, I've seen that Indian politics is failed to forget. Is still
But sir,
somewhere
you should
there. Yeah,
provide that
and
particular aspects to us, no?
there's another question. When I see different Indian thinkers or political philosophers or whatever, they are always thinking in the context of subcontinent, even in their basic ideas. They make theories just in the background of the subcontinent, and they never forget 1947 partition. It's gone story. Let's forget it.
Oh,
These are
oh
realities.
yeah,
You see,
of
for
course.
example, when we talk about nationhood or other or all either, they will start from two nation theory. Why? It was a history of the 1946 election. Leave it now.
Forget it.
Because India was an empire, never been a country. I never, convinced myself that British India was a country, and never British claimed it to be. They always called it an empire. And always, when the empires are broken up, new states come up. So now we are living in a different world, different states, and okay, forget it. Yeah, I think this is an
Yeah,
unfortunate reality.
it should be forgotten, I'm sure.
It should be
It
forgotten,
should be.
yes, of course. It's 70 years past history. World has changed a lot after that. Even all those ideas of nationalism that still used to be discussed, sometime in our own thinkers, those are outdated ideas in the rest of the world. Nobody talk these days about any nationhood basing on race or religion or creed or common language or culture. Nobody, because now nationhood, which is I mean commonly popular, is state nationhood or state nationalism. That
Yeah,
word is living after the Second World War. But we in subcontinent somehow still we are living the world before the Second World War.
yeah,
I mean, still in the colonial days, in the days of
yeah.
empire. These are gone stories now.
The thing about,
Uh,
but the thing about in Indian intelligentsia is that they're most of them right now are left based. So like they are
Yeah,
right. They have written a history, or the whole thing is
but
around.
here, sorry to
उनका
cut
जो
you. Here,
नेशनलिज्म का है ना सर, उनका
जी जी
नेशनलिज्म जो है ना सर, आपको पता है कि बूर्जुआ नेशनलिज्म जो है वो उसको
हाँ
उसको इग्नोर करते हैं, वो
हाँ
बूर्जुआ
देखिए
नेशनलिज्म।
but sadly enough, bourgeois nationalism is normally based on language or culture or such like ideas, and the leftist nationalism is based on class. Yes, but sadly enough, in subcontinent, political thinkers are always thinking for the nationalism in terms of language or culture or common culture, if it's there or not. These not, leftist ideas. These are totally bourgeois ideas. They are
Yeah,
adopting, yeah, while they're claiming to be, same time they are claiming to be leftist. I can never, convince myself to this that this is left or this anything has
yeah,
anything to do with the
yeah.
leftist ideas or anything.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
It's
Umair,
a it's a
sir,
confusion. What I will say.
move towards the wave of nationalism in the United States, as we have seen that in the same time when Modi was rising in India, the same time Imran Donald Trump was uh, to become the president of United States at that time, and we have seen a very novel aspect of United States politics, that you know the we saw that the white lower class that was living in the suburbs or in the villages, they voted for the Donald Trump, and Donald Trump became the president of United States. And now we have seen that Trump was defeated. Do you see that? Do you feel that it is just like the defeat of nationalism in United States?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. First of all, we should separate the wave of state nationalism that's all over the world. We should separate it from the rise of Indian nationalism, because in India, with Modi, it's a different kind of nationalism. So, what's behind the wave of this nationalism that's emerging in Russia, France, or United Kingdom, or America? Yeah. Meantime, there were some issues, but I can listen to you. Yeah, there's no problem. So all these nationalism or have have some roots in the phenomenon of globalization, because uh, of globalization, uh, middle class in all these Western developed Western democracies, uh, it has shrunken, it has lost its power, it has lost its living standard and income and everything. And the same is true for the lower middle classes and the lower classes. So they are feeling that they are being victimized by the globalization, and they feel that globalization, big business, multinational corporations, these are responsible for their victimization, their deprivation, and their joblessness, and all the problems they are having. So naturally, in that scenario, they look towards state, their own state, to defend them against these multinational corporations, against this big business, or against the globalization. So it's natural. You will see it emerging everywhere, at least in the developed world. Maybe Trump have lost this election, but I must remind you that since the problems are there, so you will, on the long run, you will see the same trend. Just there's just one deviation, or one difference from this trend is Southern Europe, because South Europe, Italy, Spain, Greece, uh, they, instead of state nationalism, they have, uh, I mean, they have started taking interest towards classical socialism or socialism. So that's why, at least in Spain and Greece, two new leftist parties have emerged, these which are very different from the previous leftist parties, and they are more socialist in their outlook and their philosophy and their thought. And they were openly saying that the already present leftist parties in the West have become more similar to the liberalism, to new liberals instead
Yes.
of being leftist. So this is, this in short, this is what is going on these days. The reasons I've told you is globalization, and there are two separate trends that we have seen have emerged out of this problem.
Actually, a lot of
Uh,
populist policies have come up. Populist politics.
yes,
I guess
yeah,
there could be a uniformity on that.
yes, of course, I agree with that. That populism is definitely a threat. But the problem is that what I will say, I agree to the notion that we are living in the days of for crisis of a viable political theory. This is something that we are not having because obviously neoliberalism have failed to function, and for rich and super rich it has gone very good, but for the majority of the lower classes, the middle classes and lower middle classes, it have brought more problems than the benefits. Especially it has drained the west of industry, jobs.
Going towards the towards you actually now from South Indian politics to, as you have explained, the phenomena of nationalism in Western world, and this is a feeling in or a consensus or a theory in political historians and political theorists that West has two in the political imagination of Western world. There are two very important events, two very important years actually, 1789 and 1917, and those two significant events actually prevented the expansion of capitalism, or or make them give some relief to the people in Western world, and the Western world actually moved toward a socialist kind of social welfare states. Do you feel that the recent waves are the signs of dissatisfaction in the Western world, and this unrest can bring a great revolution, a great change in the Western world?
I don't think so. I don't think so that this unrest is as bigger or as greater that which it was in the days of the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution. Uh, Unrest is still there, but the fact of the matter is that in Northern Europe and most part of the Europe, uh, social democracy or benefits given by the social democracy is helping to diffuse this crisis. One thing in America is even more acute. The problem is more acute because there's almost no social benefits there. There are, but it's not like the Europe. But even then, in the American case, we have seen now after this election that the size of the affected people is not that great that they can bring some revolution. First of all, secondly, they have not reached to some revolutionary consensus that the people had reached back in the days of the French Revolution or in the days of the Russian Revolution. They haven't reached to some conclusive results or decision that they bring about some revolution. So I rule out the possibility of any revolution, but still, uh, yeah, political turmoil would be there. Political up down will be there, and if no, yes, What I think there's no need for revolution is because state is already there. People just want that their state should protect them. In that case, they will try to make the state more stronger instead of getting rid of some, I mean, state itself. They might try to get rid of some political party, yes, some ruling party or ruling regime, yes, but within the system, and still more and more people are looking towards the state that state should defend them. So
If the
we might see
solution,
a rise of state protectionism on trade. Yes, this very much there. In the days of Trump, America was trying to do the same, and many of the European countries, yeah, maybe they are trying to do the same. I think could try to do Britain. Just the problem with the Western Europe is that the countries are so smaller that they need some bigger market. So they have European Union, but maybe European Union itself go more protectionism towards more protectionism or go more protectionist. Yeah, it might happen. It might happen that Asian countries they drift towards more protectionism, towards high tariff walls and such like things. Yeah, these are possible.
Sure, but I had a
okay,
question in my mind that like what about Pakistan? Like, because I was just reading some of my like he just asked me something, and I was just looking at some of the names of the countries which are rightist, which have rightist governments. So it was one of the countries was also Pakistan. Do you think
Yeah.
Imran Khan's government is a rightist government, or Pakistan always had rightist governments, or most of the Muslim world has theocracies? So I'm just
Uh,
confused. I don't know, so I'm asking you, sir.
if you ask this question to me, I will say that
Yes.
first of all, the fine line that was dividing right and left, this is blurred now. There's no pure left, neither there's no any pure right anywhere in the world, because these Labour Party of the Britain or such like all parties of the Europe that which were considered leftist in the past decades, they are now liberals. They are now new liberals,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's a it's a rightist political philosophy. Liberalism, new liberalism, is not left wing; it's a right wing.
No, 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 no.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
and I
so
would I would like to add something here that in Pakistan there is a creed that used to call themselves the liberal Marxists. I don't know from where this ideology come up.
no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
No, liberals in Pakistan are totally confused about their
and
own
and
political
and
theory. Yeah,
seen
because
them. I
in
have
in the
seen
name
them.
of liberalism, they will giving you the arguments of sometime of socialists, sometime of ultranationalists, and sometime of Nazis. Yes,
And
because
sometimes they
National
are
Socialism. What is National Socialism? It is Nazism. Yes, and they will they're giving you the arguments of National Socialists, and they, I mean, they call themselves to be National Socialists, and when you call them Nazis, they're angry. Yeah, they say,
Yeah.
no, we are liberals.
and
So
most of
it's
the
kind
most of the
strange phenomena.
liberal in Pakistan, they are wearing the Che Guevara caps, and they are always calling the revolution the liberals, and the
Liberal
Bourgeoisie.
revolution wearing the Che Guevara shirts, yes. But I think in all of the Muslim world, right and left wing is defined with some other parameters. It is defined in the nature of if somebody is Islamist or having leniency towards the secularism. So if somebody is within the bigger ambient of secularism or under the umbrella of secularism, even it's liberal, even it's new liberal, even it's uh, yes, socialist, leftist, they think themselves to be leftist in the Muslim world, what I think. And
Oh, yeah.
in Muslim world, the pure right wing, which is considered to be right wing, is Islamist. I think in the
Yeah.
Muslim world, yeah, it's a different chemistry and different
Yes.
background. And
Yeah.
people think about in these, I mean, this context and
Yes, sir.
these ideas.
I got your
And this
point.
is
Yeah.
not about Pakistan, that Pakistan always had the right wings governments. The most popular political party in Pakistan was People's Party. That was actually a socialist party, and their program
Yes.
in 70s was socialist. But later, when they came into government with introducing some socialist policies, they had to go towards Islamist, and they added something.
Yes, yeah, this one thing I must remind that nationalism is failed all over the world except for the continental mainland Europe.
Yeah.
Nationalism was failed in Britain, even there was no corruption in Britain.
Mm.
It was failed in India, it was failed in Pakistan, it was failed all over the world. And there are certain reasons for that. And what I think that for the state enterprises, uh, there's some different kind of society which maybe European Union, continental Europe have, but Britain doesn't have. Anglo-Saxon world don't have this. Maybe some parts of Asia Pacific or Chinese society, yes, they might have, but not all the societies are good for nationalization. There are there are lot many different reasons, and corruption is just one of them. But corruption is not the only reason for that,
Yeah.
because in Britain, it didn't fail because of the corruption.
Yeah.
It was failed because the what you see the labor unions and the management could never reach a practical, viable solution and working relationship. They always see each other as enemies. And no industry, no factory can work like this. In Germany, yeah, it's working. In France, it's working. In Spain, it's keep on working because they are more practical. They don't go to the ideological extremism. And the other societies normally, when they take some ideology, they take it to the extreme. And in that case, at least
Yeah.
nationalization
That's the
doesn't
problem.
work. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay, Sir Umair, you have been moving in the Europe from London to Spain and different countries. Do you feel that this new phenomena of Chinese age, when China is the world's largest market and they are investing throughout the world the billions of dollars, that
or
that's
it's
a,
in financial and political influence, or
mm,
you mean to say? Yeah.
I mean to say that the Western country, like especially in Eastern Europe, do the countries where the communist governments were up to 1919, there was
Used to be.
communist
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Do they feel something like that the Chinese are coming and the Chinese looking towards China?
Yeah. In fact, this fear is more in America, in more in the Western Europe instead of Eastern Europe or South Europe. Sometimes European people, compare these days to the days of the fall of Roman Empire. And I heard this energy many times that they compare that this is similar to the fall of the Roman Empire in the back days. Now it's a different response. In America, response is much hardliner. They look China as their enemy. In Europe, this is not the story. Maybe your British establishment, or to some level, the establishments, might consider China as a rival, but majority of the people don't think so. And there are lot many different phenomena as well, because you remember when, like 3 years ago, when Greece asked for the bailout package, which was given by the European Union, it was very strict, and its clauses were much more strict. And at the same time, they were threatening Greece if it goes to the IMF or World IMF. But China came to rescue, and China bailed them out on much better terms and much better conditions. Uh,
Yeah. Actually, my
it's one
question
thing.
was also,
Secondly, I must add that ex-socialist, or what you say, still leftists in the Europe, they look toward China as a hope,
yeah,
not
yeah.
as a
That
threat.
that was actually
Yes,
my
this
question,
is the
that
difference. And since in America there were no socialists, there were no leftists at all, so that's why in American context they see China only as rival, only as enemy, while the left in the China, in the Western, in the Europe overall, they think that China maybe have some help, maybe they can work better with China, and maybe that overall influence of China, or for example, loans given by China would be much better than the loans offered by the corporations, or maybe by the Germany, because in the case of Greece we have seen that terms of Germany and Holland were much more strict to bail out
So what
than the
about
given
what
by China.
about the Muslim world? Like, I'm just wondering about Muslim world, because you should see that millions of Uyghur population has been like
Yeah,
affected.
yeah. People a lot talk a lot about the Uyghur, I mean, problem. But let me ask
There,
some other questions. Some questions. Uh, if you go back to the decade of 90s or little later, Kashmir problem was there, whole the world knew it. Palestine problem was there, whole the world knew it. Even Rohingya problem was somewhat there, and the world knew it. Where was Uyghur problem in those days? I will ask. Yeah, because if some problem just spring out of thin air overnight, I
yeah.
become suspicious, because I start looking for its roots. So certainly there are lot many to learn and listen, to be listened from the Western media about the Uyghur people, but I could never understand a few things. Maybe there's somebody who can explain it to me. Why Uyghurs didn't want independence 20 years or 30 years before? If they were demanding for that, what was the movement? If this quite new phenomena, what are the problems that have emerged in last 20 years? Because in last 20 years, Xinjiang province have seen more prosperity than the past. So, victimization, okay, very good. But what sort of victimization is there? What they are exactly doing? Because we listen horrible stories as well, like Nazi concentration camps, but I never seen any video or such like this of any concentration camp. Yes, you can see that it's a very closed society. It's a very tyrannical society. It's very dictatorial
In fact,
atmosphere.
sir, they're
Yes,
saying
of
that they are
course. But
interpreting
this is,
Quran in a communism's way. Quran,
sorry?
like that, they are interpreting Quran in their own way. The
Uh,
communism
uh,
in a way,
yes, which way? Which way exactly that they are
communisms.
interpreting?
Yeah, I don't know how they're interpreting it, sir, but like they are.
Yes,
I have visited.
actually, there is a feeling in
Maybe it may
Pakistan
not
as
be true.
also.
yes.
सर इन चीजों में सच्चाई और कितनी होती है वो जरूरी नहीं है, मैं तो
कितनी,
आपसे पूछ रही हूँ बस.
हाँ मतलब देखें, मेरे लिए तो सारी, all for me all this is highly doubtful, with I
ठीक
mean
है.
some political game behind, because why they are not crying? Because lot many of Daesh Khorasan, Daesh Afghanistan, have been transferred to Xinjiang for terrorism. So exactly where are the lines between terrorism and the control of terrorism and tyranny and all these things? These are quite confusing for me,
Yeah.
and so
Sure.
that's why I try to comment on this. Yes, I keep on trying to look or to find some material in documentaries or such like that. I could actually see with my own eyes some video or something like that, so I could understand the depth of the tyranny of the and the level of control or whatever there is. But China overall is a controlled society. It's equally tyrannical with its own Chinese people, and they are as much tyrannical as was Soviet Union, as was revolutionary Cuba,
Yeah.
as was uh,
No.
socialist East Europe. So
Yeah.
if China is that wrong, then all those were wrong.
Communism. Yeah.
Yeah, if we had accepted their behavior, then why we can, point out just China. For example, wasn't it Stalin himself that he took lot many Germans, Muslims of Caucasia and Crimea and sent them to Siberia?
Yeah.
And then we call it reconstruction of national assets. We never
So, but
told that this is.
now there's a new, maybe we can say that we have a new wave of democracy, a democracy which is understood in a different way by the youth, which what they want, like,
Yes, yes, of course, yeah, definitely, definitely. There's something that people have rejected dictatorship, even its proletariat dictatorship. It is a reality that our leftist friends should also accept that. Anyway, Hong question is still highly doubtful for me, honestly. So
I
no
would
comments
like
at all
to
because
add
the
that
same. Yes.
yes, the feeling is here in Pakistan as a student of politics. I could understand that actually the criticism is coming from where the criticism on China is coming from West, from the Western world, from US itself, and after the this initiative of Belt and
And in
Road.
Pakistan, it is coming from the same corners that Muslim should be listened in China, the same corner
okay,
that they in Pakistan they say that Islamic we should not listen to the Islamists. Yes,
And from
and the same people who are advocating for the nationalization of madrasas, they will object upon state control of religion in China.
and
Isn't irony?
they are
Yeah,
all
these things make me suspicious that
people,
why we have two different standards.
yeah,
the people who are who really admire Castro and Lenin for their revolutionary ideas and their policies in their communist states, they are actually now criticizing China for the communist system and a controlled
For the
system
communism.
there.
And irony is at the same time, when I try to remind them that China is still communist than any other
yeah.
country in the world, and what they say me, no, this is capitalist. How this is capital? Do we call it it's liberal society, liberal? I mean to say capitalist democracy. No, no, neither is democracy. It's a confused response. But they don't accept that China is still a communist, is
Yeah.
mainly a communist society because the thing is that all the major industries, they are either state owned or state have very heavy stakes in all those industries. So for me, China is as much socialist country in these days as is North Korea or Cuba, with some difference. with some
Yeah.
difference. Yeah.
There is another point which make the thing suspicious is that the some people have started comparing the uh, Chinese initiative of this Belt and Road Initiative or CPEC with British colonialism and American imperialism. And and interestingly, the people who are comparing the British colonialism with Chinese projects are actually the people who always lauded the British reforms and the colonial system and the Western world. The things make
No, yes, I would. I mean, I would back those arguments if they had some substance in it. But honestly, I don't see any substance in it. For example, some intellectuals were criticizing at Tuta that China is such a dragon that it gives you loan for some project, and if you can't return it money, it take the project. Okay, that's fine. It's better
Yeah.
because, for example, China is building a seaport or airport. If you see that project is not viable, it's not earning you money, you tell him, okay, take this project and make it fruitful by yourself, but I'm not going to pay you from the taxes of the people. Because what the World Bank is doing, for example, you make some project and it doesn't work, it doesn't give profit. Instead of it, government is losing money in it. World Bank is never ready to take this bad project, and
Yeah.
the World Bank is never going to run this bad project. World Bank will say, I don't know, brother. Just pay me the interest and just pay me the money. You have to pay me. So if it's not working, it's lose money there, and lose money for us as well. So I don't think it's a negative thing, but it's painted as it's something very horrible. And simple common sense uh, doesn't accept it to be horrible or something bad.
okay. Dr. Tamanna, I had a question in my mind that we have a history of nationalism that is full of wars, and as we have seen in the Europe, in Germany and Italy, the First World War and the Second World War. Now in India, there is a rightist fundamentalist government, and that government, I don't know whether they started or from the other side, had have some problems with China and with Pakistan and other neighboring countries. So the
Yeah.
fear is that if a nationalist or rightist government is there in India with such a large country India is, and the three great powers are here in this region. So the fear is that it can lead us to a greater global conflict. What do you think that the Modi is going to mend his ties with the neighboring countries, or the things are
No.
going to do
See,
same?
he is not a fool. First of all,
Modi,
he is
yeah.
not like those mad fanatic men who will just go and start off the war with anybody. And he is really not a foolish person. Like for example, Trump. People used to laugh at him, but like he was really not.
He
He
was not
is not
crazy,
really
yeah.
a foolish guy.
He was not
People
crazy.
call
The
him that.
same way Modi is not a
So
crazy, yeah.
he is not crazy. He will never enter into a war because Indians would surely be against it. So most of the governments are populist now, as we were also all of us were talking. They will not go against the people's war because everybody will be affected. It's not only Pakistan or China which
Hmm.
will be affected. We'll be affected.
Indian
अब
people
जो
will also
border
be affected, of course.
सबका होगा जी हम अकेले
Hmm.
आप अकेले
Huh.
थोड़ी हैं या हम अकेले थोड़ी हैं सबका ही होएगा
Yeah,
तो हमको तो
war is two
उसमें
way.
we
Yeah, war
always
is two
speak
way
up.
always. Yeah, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I think we had a great conversation today,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this
Thank you so
was
much.
really wonderful to talk to two wonderful people who are sitting in the different parts of the world. And I hope that the students or the people who are watching us have to make something of it. And thank you again,
Okay.
sir and ma'am, for joining me and for this wonderful conversation. So we will be joining our followers. I don't know whether someone is following us or not,
No, they're commenting.
with some other
Okay.
topic very soon,
Mhm.
inshallah.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
Sure.
very
you.
much.
Thank you.